Hello, welcome back to our read through of the New Testament in 2026. We are entering into our fourth week, and so this week we are reading Matthew chapter 16 through 20. And we're picking up where we left off last week with Jesus and kind of the Pharisees and religious leaders starting to have some mild conflict between them, disagreements where Jesus and the religious leaders are clearly not getting along. And that starts off in Matthew chapter 16. That's kind of how things are happening. And then it says that Jesus takes his disciples and goes to Caesarea Philippi. Now, Caesarea Philippi is outside of Israel. It's actually a town that was most well known for its pagan worship. And to this day, you can go to the ruins of Caesarea Philippi and see where there were several temples built into the mountain on the edge of town to facilitate pagan worship. So this isn't exactly a spiritual retreat that Jesus is taking his disciples on. And while he's there, he asks them two questions. Who do people say that I am? Who are you hearing that people are saying that I am? And who do you say that I am? And when Simon answers, he says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus affirms this, and he says, "Yes, blessed are you, Simon. You will be called Peter, Petros, which means rock." And he says, "And on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not stand against it." Now in the next chapter, Jesus goes up onto this mountain below which all the pagan temples are, and he proves that what Simon said, what Peter said, was correct, that he is the Son of God. He reveals his true glory to Peter, James, and John, becomes this shining, bright figure, radiant figure, clothed in all white. Moses and Elijah show up and start talking to him, and then God's Spirit comes in the form of a cloud and just engulfs all of them, and Peter, James, and John get to see this, and they're terrified, honestly. But then Jesus goes back to what Jesus normally looks like, and they head down the mountain, and immediately Jesus has to deal with this boy who is demon-possessed, and even though his disciples have cast out demons before, they don't seem to be able to cast this demon out of this child. And Jesus says that it requires faith. And that's what we deal with basically the rest of this week, is we start looking at how Jesus' conflict with his disciples' lack of faith. The disciples get into an argument over which one of them is the greatest. I mean, Peter's just been called the rock upon which Jesus' church will be built. Does that make him greater than any of the rest of them? What about James and John? They always seem to be hanging out with Jesus. But what about the rest of them? What about Matthew? What about the other James or Bartholomew or Thaddeus? And so they get into this argument, and Jesus has to correct them time and time and time again. And the teachings that he teaches in this section is about forgiving others, about looking for the lost, about being the sort of people who are like children who have faith, because the kingdom of heaven belongs to people like children. And throughout of this, we're going to have three different places where Jesus is going to straight up tell his disciples, I am going to die. We're going to Jerusalem. I am going to be put to death, but I will rise again 3 days later. And they just don't seem to get it. He's trying to tell them that this is going to happen, and they think that it's probably another one of his parables, and they're trying to figure out what this teaching is. And then it all culminates in James and John, the sons of Zebedee, their mother coming to Jesus and demanding that when he establishes his kingdom, that James and John get to sit on his right and left. And he says, that's not what this is about. Now he does say, hey, if you are able to drink the cup that I'm going to drink, I'll let you do that. I'll let you share that honor with me, but I do not get to, but my kingdom is not one where people sit on my right and on my left. And so we are left there with Jesus having major conflicts with the religious leaders, Jesus constantly having to rebuke his disciples for not understanding him and for their lack of faith. And now we're coming into Jerusalem. And that's where we'll pick up next week.